Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we are live at the Michigan Public Safety Telecommunications Conference here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And we're going to talk about some stuff here. I've got my good friend Joe McCarville here of 91 Gold Line Training. What's going on, man?
Nothing. It's great to be here. The vendor hall is about soon to open. We just kicked off the conference. Doug Showalter from Showalter and Company and I spoke on Sunday. Jim Marshall and you keynoted this morning. And we're going to talk about a few things that went really, really well and maybe a few things that could be reworded just slightly because it might have been new material. And it was definitely a great addition to the presentation, but needs a different explanation next time.
Right. Yes. So I do want to say right off the bat, though, this live broadcast has been sponsored by InDigital, Rapid Deploy, as well as Carbine, but also a huge shout out to this conference for having us here and for having the podcast here. Thank you so much for hosting us. And if you are jumping in on this, please make sure to throw us something in the comments. I want to make sure this is working as well and that you can hear us. The Wi-Fi isn't the greatest. Okay. So I want to make sure that we're coming over. So throw something in the comments. I want to see something in the comments here. Do a roll call or anything like that. I'm going to share this as well. But yesterday was the opening.
Yeah.
And both you and Doug Showalter and Company were keynotes. Doug went first, and then you followed up after a 15-minute break. And man, so first, before we get into you jumping in there, you were telling me, I think during the break, or maybe in the last part of Doug's presentation, you went to the dentist and something happened. And the reason I say this is because if you have never been to a class that Joe teaches or seen the videos from Dare to Be Great, Joe is very energetic.
I do have a little energy.
Yes, he's got an energy that I could never get to. But it's amazing. That's one of the best parts I think that makes you just so awesome at what you do. And in the training, it just helps so much to be able to do it. So thank you for doing it that way. But you were also telling me that because of what you had gone through, that your energy was kind of low.
It was lower than normal.
So he ends up telling me, when I'm up there, if you end up seeing that I'm not the usual Joe that I am, throw me a thumbs up, like go up so that I can bring it up a notch. But you still did well. But what happened?
Yeah.
What happened that your energy was low, and what happened at the dentist? Because I've had some bullshit happen recently as well.
Yeah. Recently, I was supposed to go to the Iowa APCO and NINA conference. And NINA was on Monday and APCO was on Tuesday. Well, on Sunday night, I started having throbbing pain, and I knew it was a root canal. It'd be my third. I don't know what my problem is this year, but it'd be my third root canal this year. And it was a tooth from 2019 that they tried to get numb 3 different times, and they could not get it numb, and then it magically stopped hurting. So I've went a couple years with no pain, and then it just decided to really get infected or something to where it really, really throbbed. And I went in, and it had 3 different canals they had to drill on, and the first 2, no problems. Of course, now my tooth's wide open, and they start drilling on that third one, and it wasn't numb. And so I literally gut it out for a third of a root canal. And when they, at least this endodontist will say, get me the stretcher. And I now know what that feels like, because it feels like a piece of equipment going down into your root and stretching your root to drain the infection. And wow, does that hurt. But you, Ricardo, have also been through this. So you knew exactly what I was talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, mine wasn't, it wasn't exactly like what you went through. Mine was from this freaking abscess that I had. And it made, like, seriously, this whole side of my face just like balloon. And the only way that they could fix it up is by cutting me open from the inside. Because they were telling me, if you don't take care of this now, if we don't do it this way, what's going to happen is we're going to have to cut you on the outside.
Oh, wow.
And then it's going to be major surgery, and it's going to take a lot longer to heal. And I said, okay, just go ahead and cut me open. But the infection was so bad that when they were cutting down deeper, like the medicine that they gave me, it did not go that far down. So it was not good. And the pain was extreme. And man, it was really, really bad.
Oh, it hurts.
Yes.
I sweat through 2 shirts. I was wearing a t-shirt and a light hoodie. And I got up and my back was just drenched and the chair was soaked in sweat. But the good news was 2/3 of it, I was numb.
Yeah.
So it was 1/3. I'm glad it was at least only 33% that I had to suffer like crazy, because the rest of it wasn't bad. It was just like getting a normal root canal. So it wasn't awful, but I'd never want to do it again.
So then, you end up doing this keynote yesterday. How many days prior to that was it that this happened?
About 10 days, 7 to 10 days, somewhere in there. I got it on Monday and I spoke on Sunday. So yeah, about 7 days.
Damn, and you were still kind of low energy.
Yeah, a little bit, because the antibiotic they give you, that they say don't drink on it. It's to fight infection.
That's right.
And Michigan APCO Neenah are such great hosts, and it's been really difficult to be sitting around here just having water. Shout out to all my dispatchers enjoying a beverage. I'm proud of y'all.
Yes. Yeah. We were talking about the fact that if you ended up having a drink, there would be the possibility that you might just Ralph, man.
I might get sick. So I tried, and I had a mule at this historic restaurant we went to last night. I had a Fireball mule.
That's right.
Probably could have started with something a little bit lighter. I don't know why I went right for the hard stuff, but I did have about half of it, and I just decided it's not worth it. So I put it away for the night.
Well, and so you also ended up getting some free food there.
Yes, it was a monstrous. I ordered a calzone. Everybody else ordered like these burgers, so everything came out a lot sooner than what my calzone did. I didn't realize they put about 4 pounds of meat in their calzones, and I ordered the small.
That's
It
right.
said small and large, and then they brought it out, and it was almost like the size of 2 plates. And they said, "Oh, we only have one size calzone, and your food's going to take longer than everybody else's, so your food is now free." So I got this monstrous 2-plate calzone for $0.00.
Dang. It was still a good place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was still a cool place and everything. But yeah, that calzone was enormous, dude.
It was big. I didn't even come close to eating
It
all
was
of it.
super huge.
It was big.
Now, I want to get to something that happened yesterday as well. You were doing your presentation, which again went amazing. It was awesome. But there was a moment where your words got Well, explain. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to tell them both moments, because the first moment, how I decided to kick this keynote off, probably nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah.
It was a crowd involvement type exercise where I used several beach balls and broke them into 3 different shifts: the day shift, the afternoon shift, and the midnight shift.
Uh-huh.
And I just interacted with them, and they were tasked with certain things. And boy, the whole audience was really engaged right from the get-go.
Yes.
And that exercise really said, okay, he's really relating to us in a way, saying not only does he understand dispatch, but he understands each shift has unique challenges that they have to overcome. All done by having fun and crowd interaction. So that really worked very well. I thought. You were in the audience. What did you think?
I thought it was excellent. The whole way that you put it together, the way this went down is there were 3 different groups, and there was the day shift, there was the mid shift, and then the midnight shift. And Joe was the manager, of the center in this scenario, and he had a beach ball for everyone. Now, the first group had a solid color, and it made so much sense because the way you explained it was that you are there during the day, so they would have the most instruction.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it was a solid color, because what they were going to be doing is they were going to get a ball and they were going to hit it back and forth to each other, and it could not hit the ground, and they needed to say the color of the beach ball that they were hitting. Well, the mid shift, they got a beach ball that was all different colors. They had to do the same thing, but Joe, being the manager, you only see so much of the mid shift, so he kind of gave him a little bit of instruction and then threw the ball at him, and then midnight shift just had the ball thrown at him, and that was good luck.
Yeah, it was good luck. They had the most colors on their ball too.
Right.
So that was just a lot of fun, and just the laughter that it brought the dispatchers and how everybody related to that was definitely something. So that was something new that I threw into the presentation. And then the other thing, I threw in a few other things that were new, but the one that stood out is the one that you and Doug let me know that I accidentally said after the presentation. And I got to work on the words here. It's so bad. I mean, we're live, and I know it's so bad. But it was a great thing that a lot of people probably haven't heard of, and it's called the tall poppy syndrome.
Yes.
And what the tall poppy syndrome says is avoid mediocrity. If somebody's growing and starting to learn something new and becoming one of your standout employees, there's no reason we have to tear them down and make them the same height and bring them down to our level. We shouldn't criticize somebody for wanting to learn, wanting to grow. And the tall poppy syndrome says we cut these off to be all at the same level. That's how it should have came out. And I basically said we need to stop whacking off our employees to the same level. But I think a lot of people missed the to the same level in the description because the way it was worded caught everybody off guard a little bit. So
Yes.
Doug and Ricardo thankfully pointed that out to me. And next time I'll use the word cut, I think, in the next explanation. But it was definitely a lot of fun explaining that it's new content, something people haven't seen.
Right.
And the round of applause that I got at the end, it's why I do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's why I bring the energy to the classes. I think dispatchers all over need something to pick them up.
Yes.
And give them a little motivation, remind them that their job is extremely important and that everybody faces these communication challenges at their center and you're not alone. We face them as well at our center. And when I'm saying like the midnight shift may not see leadership of their department, I'm really coming up with that content because I am a leader of a department, and that's true for my department. I feel absolutely terrible when I don't see my midnight shift for days, weeks, and sometimes months on end. And so what I try to do is just make sure I'm getting up and responding to their emails before they go home. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm pretty good at it so that they at least have an answer before the end of their shift.
That's good, man. And when you said what you said,
yeah,
I caught it, but what I think what made it more funny for me was the fact that I saw Doug. He was sitting in front of me. It was me, and then it was Jill, and then it was Doug. And when you said it, he goes, and I knew what he was laughing at. I knew it. I just knew it. And he kind of turns back around. And he's like, "Did you say that we're whacking off our employees?" And I started laughing, and I was like, "That's why I was laughing too."
Yeah, and I'm so glad you guys pointed out. It was the first time I tried to explain the tall poppy syndrome, and next time, if I never would have had anybody tell me that I said that, I probably would have continued saying it more often. So I'm really thankful for constructive criticism because it can definitely be reworded a little bit better.
Well, and there were some people that you could see. You could see that they were laughing and everything else. During that, a lot of parts, because there was a lot of good parts and everything, but especially when you had said that, I could see in the audience that other people had caught it as well, and that's what made it even more funny. So then at the end, Joe comes back because we were all sitting at the table, and Joe comes back there. We're giving him praise and everything. We're like, you did really good, because he did an amazing job. And then we brought that part up, and the look on your face was priceless.
Oh, I had to be like,
yes,
I said that.
Yeah, that's exactly how you did it. Yes, you were like, did I really say that? Like, yeah, you did. You were talking about that.
And sometimes you don't know if Doug's just messing with you because he's got a very good sense of humor,
right?
And he's upbeat, and sometimes he'll mess with me or I'll mess with him. And so I didn't know at first, but then you guys both were like, "No, you really said." I'm like, "Oh man, I need to say that a lot different next time."
Yeah, man. It made it a lot of fun, especially with that opening activity and everything. Because I mean, it's morning, and it got everybody up, and everyone was just having a good time. So thank you, man, for what you do.
I'm proud to do it. And the next day, Jim Marshall came in and opened it up. We got to hear from some excellent 911 dispatcher stories, and he kind of explained it from what he does in his profession. And that was excellent to hear. But then the next person to take the stage was this legend right here, Ricardo Martinez from the Within the Trenches podcast. And your Imagine listening sessions, I've now sat through, I think, 3 of them. And I brought you to Iowa, and we had you on Iowa virtual and in person. We've done that both ways. They are impactful. And the difference that you've made around the nation and the world, dude, I can't tell you enough how many people you've helped in the 911 profession. What you've done for 911 is just incredible. And your session, you could hear it's always interesting to watch your session because you start off and it's you and you bring humor to it and you explain your family, and then you explain your calls with your grandma. And then you're like, okay, now here's the Can I say shit live?
Of course.
Okay, here's the shit.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the shit, and you start to explain that, and then like the atmosphere in the room is like he's really speaking to me, and as everybody's processing that, it gets almost silent before the first hashtag I am 911 story. And then the first one starts, and you see the courage in the room start to build as people turn in their papers, and they start to get more courageous and grabbing the microphone and sharing their story. And I got to run the microphone around to people and pick up some of those papers for you. And I can't, your session, dude, is just incredible what it does for people. So talk a little bit about what you felt at Michigan in the first session of your part.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you to you and Leah and Whitney for running the microphone around, because when it's just me,
yeah.
especially in a room that big, it's hard to do running back and forth. I definitely get my steps in. It's a lot of fun. We start out with emotionally intense stories first, but then we get into the more lighthearted stories and stuff. But man, there was no shortage in stories. Like people immediately, like sometimes it'll go both ways. Either it starts out with a lot of people who are writing the stories and then handing them in, or it's the other way around and people are on the mic sharing more than writing down. And I this time I would say it was kind of really balanced. There was tons of people who were saying stories out loud, and then a lot of people who were writing them. I mean, I've got an enormous stack full of stories that will be added to an episode coming soon. But doing the keynote at this conference was special, and I was kind of talking about it when I was on stage, but I didn't get through all of it because I felt myself like about to lose it. Because the person that I mentioned, Jerry Tapper, she passed a few years ago, and but she was the one who had suggested that I come to the Michigan conference and talk about what it was that I was doing with the podcast, and kind of share my story. So I did, and the last time that I talked to her before she passed away, I told her thank you. I said I will never forget your suggestion, and if it wasn't for you, I might not be here. And she's like, oh, stop. She goes, no, you would have done something either way. She goes, I just gave you a little nudge. She goes, but you're doing a good thing. She goes, you're doing something that's been needed for a long time, and that's sharing these stories and shedding light on dispatch. She goes, don't stop. She goes, don't stop doing what you're doing, because it's needed. And I haven't stopped since. So that's I wanted to give that shout out, because it was 8 years ago that that I had given a version of the session that I did today. And it's just been amazing, man, ever since. But when I was up there, I was like, oh, fuck, like I'm gonna lose it, man. So I only said so much, and then I moved on to the next part because I felt it coming on. I was like, oh, I got to keep going.
I want to talk about the next part directly to the Michigan people that are here, because the next part is the fun stories.
Yes.
And I tell you, I always laugh during this one, but today, and I'm not going to wreck it because I know you haven't released it yet, but I'm going to give a shout out because I want everybody to tune in. And even if you don't listen to the whole thing, you've got to listen to the funny stories from Michigan APCO Neenah. There is one in particular. Well, there's a couple, but the one I'm going to share live is a little more clean. And I don't want to wreck it for anybody. And Ricardo, you'll know what I'm talking about, but there's somebody that described a relationship between them and their uncle. Okay, them and their uncle.
Yes.
And I was laughing so hard, and so was the table next to me.
Yes.
And the people here in Michigan that I've met are just incredible. And the center that I've spoken to the most, that I'm super proud to get to meet a bunch of people from there, and just because probably they're one of the largest cities, if not the largest one in Michigan, is everybody that's here from Detroit.
Yes.
And learning about their 911 center and how it's so different and so big, and how they do things there, and then talking to them. And then I met somebody that he sent a text to somebody that's worked at the Detroit PD for over 30 years that knows somebody that I know. And so it's just a real small world, and getting to interact with them. And I'm going to give a quick shout out, because there was this one guy I was talking to on break, getting to really know him, and his son goes to Michigan State. And there's a big sporting event coming up in this state. It's a Michigan versus Michigan State in football this weekend.
Yes.
And so the room is kind of interesting. And towards the end of my keynote yesterday, I said, I really got them. They're all listening. I play that emotional video at the end.
Right.
I tell them, I said, now look, and I'm from Iowa. Go Hawks. I said it real quick. Okay, real quick.
That's right.
And they tried to start booing, and I cut them right out. I said, no, I'm just kidding. I said, go Blue. Well, then I didn't, which is Michigan. But what I found out is there's a lot more Michigan State shirts walking around this conference than there is Michigan shirts. But today at the conference, when they said we got some Michigan fans here, the roar was pretty loud.
Yes.
And the Michigan State one was loud by a couple people.
Right.
Yeah. And the one that we got to meet, he was just incredible. And I really enjoyed our conversation and what they said during your session about how they're working on some of the absenteeism issues and how much you relate to that. So when Ricardo does release that on Within the Trenches podcast media, make sure you listen to it for a whole bunch of reasons, because there's just some excellent information in there, not only the stories and the impact they have and the funny stories, but this conference and the people that are here. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed being here. Thank you to Michigan APCO and Nina, and thank you for coming and watching, helping me during my session.
That was fun, dude.
Yeah, Doug, you and Jill came up and all spoke at the same time, and we caused some havoc and some confusion for a listening exercise. And I've just had the time of my life here, and I'm so proud that Michigan APCO Nina asked me to come and let me stay too to do what it were, to hear other people speak as well.
Yeah, man, it was really good. So for those who are watching right now, and I don't know if you want to talk about it at all, but what was the exercise? Because so like I said before, we're all sitting at the same table, right? And Joe leans over and he goes, so are you here for a little bit? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be here for the whole thing. And he goes, okay, good, because you're going to come up with me here like 45 minutes in. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you and Jill and Doug are going to come up and you're going to help me with an exercise. And I was like, okay. So what was funny was that when you were naming off these different names, like what was it? It was like Tantrum Tyler. Yes. Loud Linda.
And Dissertation Dave.
Yes. Dissertation Dave. So when you were first talking about this, I leaned over to Jill and I said, I think it's our turn already, or maybe he's just talking about this first. And you were talking about it, you were explaining it and doing all this other stuff. Sarah Weston's here in the audience. Hello. And then Kimberly, hello as well. And you kept going, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's not our part. Maybe he's not calling us up after all. And then and I looked down for a moment, and then I hear, if Jill and Doug and Ricardo will come up, I was like, oh shit. I was like, it's our turn. And Jill looks back and she goes, this is it. I was like, this is it. I'm pretty sure. So we walk up, but explain this part. How did this whole thing work? How does it work out?
Yeah, I talk about building trust with the responders that you dispatch for. So a lot of times dispatch will have a question about, well, why does that officer have to take that long on a report call? Or why does the officer have to do this or that? Or the fire department do this or that? And when you go to meetings as a 911 manager or director, the responders will ask you questions about why does dispatch make us repeat, or why does dispatch do this or do that? And so one of the things I like to put in perspective for people sitting in the room is I have a lot of responders that come to a class that I teach called Everyone Communicates 911 Needs to Connect. Very popular class. It ends with a question and answer session with emergency responders, and it's a very unique class, and it's been extremely powerful. And I have some responders from my own agency, now just one, I used to have two, that helped me come and teach this class. And then at the end, it's a question and answer session with the emergency responders from the class. And where this came about was I asked them if they've ever been able to listen to 2 or 3 things at the same time, because sometimes, a law enforcement officer will only have the radio on their car that listens to one channel at a time.
Yeah.
Now, some may also listen to something in their ear too, maybe 2 things at a time. But it's really difficult for them to listen to 3 things at a time because they don't have the equipment to do it. Whereas dispatch could be on the phone, listening to an open channel in their ear, and then listening to another channel that's maybe out of a speaker, and then maybe another one. It can get really crazy in a dispatch center. And so for the responders, so that they can benefit from hearing what it sounds like when 3 people are talking at the same time, I created these sentences that you guys came up and read. and different people respond on the radio different. So sometimes you have that officer that's really loud, like loud, okay, and then other times you have the attitude on the voice, like they 10-5 or whatever it might be. And sometimes you get the officer that, even though when you key up and say go ahead, and you hear 911 and a bunch of other voices in the background ringing, they're going to continue to talk and give you this long dissertation.
Yes.
So I put those three personalities together with you, Doug, and Jill, and we start, and I have you guys all talk at the same time so that everybody in the room can hear what it sounds like when three people are talking at once.
Yes.
And then since dispatch has the power of making somebody repeat, we do it a second time. And then I ask the audience questions about what you guys said.
Right.
And the audience did fantastic, the dispatchers in the room. But what I made the point of saying is dispatchers are trained to listen to keywords, understand that, and sort out what's important and relevant.
Yes.
And if you put 3 dispatchers in a group and 3 responders, it's always good to watch them compete and see who could do better when 3 people are talking at once. And my experience tells me that the dispatchers usually win that battle, at least because they're trained in hearing 3 responses at once.
Right.
So it'd be, and to have the responders that go around teach it with me. What I did when building this class is I went to the gun range with them. All right, and I got to shoot my weapons that I have, and they got to shoot theirs. Okay, and I would bet on the officers every time because they put me at 25 yards, and I'm sure there's some dispatchers out there that are good at that. I'm not very good, but I did hit the target one time. But they gave me this target that was very, very small. I mean, it was like this. I mean, yeah, you say nice, but I shot like 20 times. So I was like 1 for 20. So I got to get a little better at that. But so the officers are good at things that they do for their job, and dispatch is good. But the responders, when they're in the room and they hear those 3 people talking all at the same time, the light bulbs start to go off. Is that really what it's like? And although it's not coming out of speakers and in the phone, that is what it's like when 3 people are talking at once. And you guys came up and helped me with that, and it was just awesome.
So with that said, I got to be Loud Linda, which was hilarious because I had to read a traffic stop, and I had to say it kind of loud, but then I had to wait 3 seconds and then ask if dispatch copied what I was saying, and but that portion I had to say it even more loud. So I'm trying to be even more loud, and after I did it, I thought, was that loud enough? Like, should I try to have been even louder? Like, can I get even louder? Like, I don't know. So it was funny that was the one that I ended up getting. But Doug being what was it again? Dissertation
Doug. Now I'm changing the
dissertation
name.
Doug.
Now
It should
dissertation
be.
Doug.
He did it very well. He was talking. He kept going on, but he had almost like a Grey Poupon-ness to it.
He had some fun. He just kept it real monotone.
Yeah. Yep. It's like, the vehicle is a blue sedan 4-door with, and it just kept going on and on like that. I was waiting for it. And by the way, do you have any Grey Poupon? Now, for those who are watching this right now, I wonder how many of you even know what the hell I'm talking about.
The best part was when I asked the audience the questions, because when you and Jill and Doug are all talking, they weren't as vocal. But obviously, dissertation Doug is the last one done, so it's just one person talking at a time.
Right.
And then I would say, describe the car. The whole audience was yelling, red car, And it was very awesome just to see how entertained the audience was and how energized they were, and they stayed in the moment, the whole presentation. I just love it here.
Right. Yeah. No, it was excellent. Everybody at the very the table that was at the front, it was right in front of us.
Yeah.
They had everything right, mm-hmm. Right? But like you were saying, they were closest mm-hmm. to what we were doing. And then it was, it was almost like playing telephone.
Yeah.
That second person is going to have the right message, but as it continues going on, it gets a little muddy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it was in the audience, because it was a big audience. There was a lot of people in there.
Yes.
And so when it got to the tables that were back further towards us, they were partially right. They were close, but they weren't, full on like those who were sitting up front. So it was a great exercise, and like you said, everybody was in it, and they were in it all the way to the end. You were in it all the way to the end, to the point where his voice, he was going hoarse already at the end of it.
Yeah, that's true. I got to give a shout out to my cousin. He's probably one of my best friends, and he played college basketball.
Mhm.
He overcame some cancer issues, and he was really good at basketball.
Yeah.
He was one of 1,500 McDonald's All-Americans in high school, and that's when he got cancer. And so he went to a 2-year junior college and didn't play. As he got his strength back, walked on. He was probably would have been a D1 recruit, in my opinion. And then he walked on at D3, instantly became the captain. And I was into his games.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know if I've ever told you this before.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's right before the playoffs, and it's a really important game. And I was a vocal fan. Okay, probably too vocal. He'll like watching this back, and that was the refs were bad this game. They were playing bad. My cousin and his team. And I told his now mother-in-law and father-in-law, they were the only ones that traveled to this game because their daughter also played on the women's team.
Uh-huh.
And I told him, I said, I'm about to lose it. I said, they got to step it up. This is for the playoffs. And he kept telling me, his father-in-law, Joe, just settle down. Joe, just settle down. And finally, it was a timeout. It was quiet. And I got up, and I had a moment. I had a moment. I was loud, Linda, the whole time out. And I was encouraging and yelling. And so anyhow, they said that I had to go in. And I had this camera stuck up my nose and down my throat.
Yeah.
Because I lost my voice for so long. And they asked me, are you a singer? And I said, no. And trust me, I was going to sing yesterday, which we're about to get to.
That's right.
But I'm the world's worst singer. I mean, the worst singer there is. And I said, no, I'm not a singer. Why? And they said, you've got a little bit of some permanent damage to your vocal cords.
From that one time?
Well, it was more of a season, but that one time was the cherry on top. I mean, there was the whole season where I was pretty intense and cheering for him so hard because I knew what he overcame. And I just rooted for that team, and I rooted for him. And we still to this day are constantly in touch. He's at a national park now, and they've been sending me pictures and everything else, and we stay in touch a lot. But whenever we go back to the family, they always tell that story. Do you remember that game at Central? Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
game
I have the
Central.
doctor bill for it.
Yeah, so that was interesting. But on one of the other slides, I told you before I went up there, and I didn't have the courage to do it, that there's 5 steps to training somebody where you model the behavior, you mentor them, you motivate them, and then eventually it multiplies the 5 M's of training somebody. And I said I related this to when I started playing guitar because I wanted to choose a hobby that I didn't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about music except for I do like it now. It's interesting to me how much behind the scenes there is to that music stuff. And I found out I cannot sing. All right. So I wanted to show an audience what it's like when somebody that can't sing has at least got the courage to do it. So hands, touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you, sweet Caroline.
Bum, bum, bum.
Good times never seem so good.
So good. So good.
And I think the whole audience would have done that had I remembered to do it. But
oh man, I was hoping you were going to end up doing it, and yes, it would have been so good, so good.
It's so good,
so good.
Oh, that's great.
Oh shit, dude. Yeah, it would have been. Oh, look, Sarah would pop. Yes.
Oh yes, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Love it.
Oh man, that is amazing. Yes, everyone would have jumped in, man.
They would have. They were into it, and I wish I would have remembered to do it, but I didn't even remember to describe how you the Poppy syndrome correct. So that slide needs to be improved from the get-go, man. I had a great time.
Yes, we all had a great time.
Yeah.
It was excellent. These past couple days have been. I almost said so good again. Damn,
So
I don't even know what to say anymore. It has been excellent, and it's been an amazing time. And there's so much more to come. Again, we're currently here in the vendor hall We've got this vendor reception that's going on right now. We've got attendees that have been coming by and saying hello and everything else. And they're going around doing their thing. And I think there's like finger foods. And somebody just came in. Oh, they brought us popcorn.
Popcorn, man. That's good.
Oh, snaps. We just got some popcorn. Hell yes. That's what I'm talking about.
Popcorn.
So that is going to be good. We're about to tear that up here in just a moment. But for everyone who is watching, listening, whether it be just right now live or on the replay, how can people find out more about everything that it is that you are doing with 911 Gold Line Training? Because I feel that everyone needs to see Joe speak, get a class. This dude is amazing.
Yeah. I appreciate it, man.
Social media, how do they get a hold of you?
911 Gold Line Training on Instagram and Facebook. You'll find me 911 Gold Line TRG on Twitter. You can also find me at Joe McCarville on LinkedIn. I share some things from the 911 Gold Line Training page, but more my personal page, Joe McCarville. And also my website is www.911goldlinetraining.com. And so I just enjoy the opportunities to go around and speak. And usually when I leave, they say they're energized and they were into it, and the time goes by pretty quick. So hopefully I'll be coming to a state near you soon.
Yeah. And also, you're one of the hosts from We Speak Dispatch. So how can people find you guys on that as well?
Absolutely. I'm glad you reminded me of that. I am one of the hosts with Showalter from Showalter & Company, Doug. Leslie from Rapid SOS.
Yes.
She joins us. John, he's from the East, and Glenna from California as well. And we invite guests. So if you want to be a guest on We Speak Dispatch, make sure you contact us. Go to our Facebook page, leave a comment, leave us a message, whatever it is, or email us at WeSpeakDispatch@gmail.com. And we have 15-minute conversations about dispatch-related topics. They go by super quick, a lot of laughter, a lot of fun. So if you're stressed out about something or want to ask a question on ways to improve something, come and get 100 years almost when our panelists are together.
Yes.
Over 100 years of dispatch experience from all across the United States that will give you ideas on how to improve your center.
Perfect. Thank you, man, for being on. This has been a lot of fun. And thank you as well to all the attendees of the Michigan Conference, and especially the conference itself, for inviting us to be here and to speak, to share some knowledge, share some stories, and of course for hosting the podcast. So thank you all very much. This live broadcast has been sponsored by Indigital, Rapid Deploy, and Carbine. If you ever have any comments, questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that'll be wttpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. That is @91podcast. You can like us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/Within Trenches Podcast. Any bonus content, you can check us out, patreon.com/WTT Podcast. This can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitter. And then you can hear 24/7 episodes. We've got 409 out there right now. And I think I am maybe 2,000 downloads away from 1.6 million worldwide. So amazing, amazing stuff. It's just been really good. So we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.